Welcome to Barefoot in America. Today we're filming from Quake Lake in Montana. This lake has an interesting story, kind of a tragic story as well. It is a tragic story. In, I believe, the 1950s, the earth shifted. It tilted underneath the lake and there was a resort here. And so you'll see at the end of the slideshow some cabins that are still in the lake water. But basically an earthquake happened, creating a tsunami type waves called a seiche, and all the water was just coursing back and forth and the lake floor tilted, just changing the course of the lake here. So this part's called Quake Lake. It's part of Hebgen Lake here in Montana, and we are very close to the West Yellowstone National Park entrance, probably about 30 miles away. So just getting a sense of where we are in Montana, just that lower southeastern section near the Idaho and Wyoming border. So bringing you more myofascial yoga today. You know, Yin Yoga says 3 to 5 minutes. I incorporate some concepts of myofascial release, hence the myofascial yoga. And I wanted to teach you how to use some of the props. So if you have blocks and straps and blankets, we'll put them to use today with the 3 stretches we're going to hold for 5 minutes each. So let's just start by centering ourselves, getting grounded and spacious by sitting on the mat. So find a nice comfortable seated position, easy cross-legged posture. Take the moment to bring your hands to your heart and connect to your own spiritual awareness. All of us come from various religious dogmas and various spiritual perspectives, so just let yourself connect in however that works best for you. Remembering we're part of the oneness of it all, each of us authentically letting our light shine, living our truth by being authentic. Just taking the time to really be authentic with yourself today as we come into shapes and postures. As we connect with breath, letting it slow down, letting the breath serve us well to soften and to relax. Feeling our connection to nature, to the earth beneath us, the sky above us. And coming deeply within so that we can get to know ourselves a little bit better. Seal that intention with just a couple more deep breaths. Relax your arms, and we're going to transition to Dandasana, staff posture. So shift your weight so that your legs are extended straight out in front of you. If you can't fully extend your legs, you could put a blanket maybe under your knees to give you a little bit of support if that is how tight your legs are. Maybe you even need a bolster, but meet yourself at the edge. And if you're really tight, you might even put the blanket underneath your buttocks to give you just a little bit of lift in the hips. And then grab your strap next. Take a moment to hook your strap to the bottom of both feet. And simply start by sitting tall. We're going to start our 5 minutes here. And the first concept is to elongate. So feel the L shape of your body. Press your heels away, engage your legs, lengthen your spine so that the legs are going in one direction, the torso in another. Draw your toes towards your nose, maybe even put a little space between your toes. Lift your heart, and ever so subtly start to hinge forward from your hips. Just melting into the forward fold, but not forcing anything. Inhaling, broadening your shoulders, lifting your crown, pressing your heels away. Exhaling, melting into the fold. Just coming to the barrier and waiting, being right here at the edge of the stretch. With time, letting yourself melt forward a little bit more. Maybe you're so stiff that not much movement happens. Maybe things are pretty pliable that you start to go deeper and deeper. You can just walk your hands down the strap. And at some point, you're welcome to bow your head towards your legs. And this is where a block could come in really handy. Resting your forehead on the block. And just feeling how that creates a deeper stretch. And if things are pretty tight, maybe you're using 2 blocks. And you're stacking the 2 together, making the various heights to help meet yourself right where you are. And knowing that those blocks can get shorter with the passing time. Maybe you even want to lose the strap and focus on the blocks for a moment. Keep hinging, lengthening, softening. Coming into the shape. And as things continue to melt, lower the blocks. Let them get a little shorter. Scooch them away from you a little bit more as you can fold more. The strap is there at any point if you want to hook onto it and stabilize yourself and pull into it a little bit more. So going from Dandasana, the tall staff posture, to the forward fold. We use forward fold in standing all the time. It's the same shape, so you can energize your feet like you're standing on the wall in front of you. And just notice how when you press out of your feet, there's more tugging in the hips, the hamstrings, maybe even in the back. And it's the weight of the head draping forward, creating traction of the spine. If the blocks start to teeter, maybe even put a tall block between your thighs to give yourself a little more stability with it. Just keep playing with it, letting the shape unfold, letting yourself go deeper and deeper with each passing moment. And just waiting at that edge till it unfolds even a little bit more. Give yourself a handful of deep cleansing breaths to really keep melting into it. Maybe your fingers could even reach your ankles or toes at this point. Simply shifting with the subtle nuances that unfold with the passing time. Taking just a few more deep cleansing breaths there. You're doing great with it. Just keep meeting yourself at the edge. Be mindful to be hinging from your hips, pressing out of your heels. If your head doesn't rest on the blocks, it's okay. Gravity can be pulling you into it a little bit. And as you're ready, just walk your hands up your legs. Take that moment to sit upright. Finding your staff posture, Dandasana back. Lift your heart, gaze ahead. And next, bring the soles of your feet together, Baddha Konasana. I'm gonna turn sideways so you can see it a little differently. And again, you may wanna keep the blanket underneath your seat, especially if you have tight hips. And if not a blanket, maybe it's even a block or a couple blankets. I know a lot of my gentlemen clients use more than one blanket to get that support underneath them. And then Baddha Konasana simply is bound angle posture, bringing the soles of your feet together, letting the knees flare open, and there's choices here too. You could put blocks under your knees to support you if the knees are tight, and blocks have various heights, so sometimes people are just simply this tight, and this is a great place to be. Meet yourself at your own personal edge, and if you're not using the blocks under the knees, put a block between your feet. Taking the time to first lengthen your spine. We're going to hold this again for 5 more minutes. Hinging forward, keeping your spine as long as you can to maximize the hinge from your hips. And once you've maximized that hip hinge, that's when you might just round your back, let your head bow towards your feet. And settling into the shape that works for you. There's no rule about how far you have to go. Just keep letting it unfold with time. And maybe your feet hold your ankles, or your hands hold your ankles or your feet. And again, let the breath be fluid. Let it be easy. Let it slow down. Expanding the lungs on the inhalation. Giving yourself the pause. And feeling everything draw in, pushing the last morsel of air out of your lungs on the exhalation. Taking the time to pause. Coming to the barrier where it's tight and tugging like taffy. But not forcing anything, never going so deep that you hold your breath. And it's at that barrier where we wait for the fascia to start to melt and soften and open up. And it usually takes at least 3 minutes for that change to start to occur. That's why we hold the postures for 5 to 7 minutes, melting into it. And if you're using the blocks, they're great to just change the heights of them as things start to unfold for you. Coming to the next barrier and waiting. Continue to let the breath flow in and out. And maybe even want to take your arms at some sort of angle, reaching, adding another 3-dimensional component. They could be out to the side, they could be straight ahead of you. Just find a spot where it feels like it takes you into that 3rd dimension of the stretch. As things soften, maybe you change the height of the block again. Maybe you keep coming lower and lower. Maybe it doesn't quite reach and you put stacked fists there as well. Or the hands stacked on one another. Or the forehead maybe reaches the blocks and you can take the arms into that 3rd dimension. Keep meeting yourself at the edge, just noticing the subtle nuances of the shape, how things shift and change. Notice what feels good and let it feel good. Take in the simplicity of this. Notice how staying at the edge sometimes takes a little more discipline, more patience. It's all about waiting and allowing. And noticing how you feel. Sometimes it feels so good we want to stay. Sometimes we feel agitated. Sometimes we'll feel emotion bubbling up. It's all perfect. Simply authentically feel what you're feeling. And gently walk yourself back up. Take that time to come back to the upright seated position in Baddha Konasana. We're going to take one more stretch. This time we're going to take our legs out in a V. Your V, not my V, right? Just finding how far you can take your legs. And once you get there, you know, maybe the blanket's still under your hips, and that helps give you that little bit of rise that makes it a little easier. Think of your kneecaps and toes pointing at the ceiling, towards the sky. Feel the inner thigh stretch, and start by having your hands behind you, propped on your fingertips. And for those of you who are tight, man, this is so great. It creates heart opening, and it allows you to press out of your heels to find that leg stretch. If you're more flexible, bring your hands in front of you and start to lengthen your spine and hinge from your hips. Blocks are great to prop your hands on and let that just come out a little bit further. And with each passing breath, continue to lengthen the spine, melt into the shape, feeling the three-dimensional web of the fascia. Heels pressing, toes expanding, lengthening the spine, hinging from your hip, melting into the wide-legged forward fold and seated. You're doing really great. Just keep playing with your edge and know that there's nothing to rush into. Just let it unfold. If you've pushed a little too far, let yourself back off and re-lengthen. Expand into your skin. Let your essence fill your skin. And let your essence flow freely through you. Allowing those tight spots, the solidified fascia, to start to melt and soften. Bringing in hydration, nutrition, consciousness, awareness. And be the observer of yourself. Notice what's stirring up inside of you. Maybe there's a visualization, a memory, sensations in your toes or elsewhere in your body. Maybe there's some emotion going on in your life that you haven't given yourself the space or time to feel. Let yourself go into those spaces, allowing it to all unravel. And at some point, letting the head bow, creating the traction up your spine. And do your best to always lead with your heart, your solar plexus. Feel the fascial web that makes you, you. All the things you've experienced in your life. Feel your body. Coming to your own personal edge, to allow yourself to open up, to expand just a little bit further than you were 5 minutes ago. Creating more space in the physical body, which in turn creates more space in the mind and the spirit as well. For the three go hand in hand. Continue to melt into it. Giving ourselves those 5 minutes to just really let it completely unravel to a point. And if you like to stay longer than 5, the 7 minutes is available to you. You can always pause the video and stay just a little bit longer, especially when something's feeling really, really good. Or don't even pause it. Just let the video play and stay with what works for you. Maybe you start to have a little bit of rotation of the torso or a little lean one way. All that is the fascia starting to unravel, giving you messages on how it wants to flow. No two of us are going to do that the same because we're uniquely woven. So if you feel that sense of this little bit of lean or twist, just go with the flow and follow it. Maybe you're noticing at this 5-minute point that this is when things are really starting to soften and change. That's why there's value in staying a little bit longer. And for the sake of the practice today, we're going to come on up. Bring your legs together. Notice how they feel. And we're going to lie down in Savasana on your back. If you'd like to use your blanket, you could put your blanket long ways, like a log, and just put it right underneath your spine, creating a bit of a heart opener. Let yourself come on back to the blanket, laying on your back. Taking your arms to your side, palms facing up. And I'll say the thing about the blanket is sometimes we have lumbar lordosis and we like this curve. So I have the blanket in my low back. Other folks are really tight there and they'd much prefer to have the blanket all the way down to their sacrum, creating a different type of opener. But just make sure it's comfortable for you. Arms resting, palms up, legs drifting apart slightly, toes out. And just take the time to rest in Savasana, your final resting posture. Giving yourself a generous 5 to 10 minutes here today. We're going to transition to that slideshow we put at the end of the videos. I encourage you to just let that play through and stay in Savasana longer, and you can always rewind to see the gorgeous pictures we've created from our time here in Montana. So thank you so much for joining me on the mat, for exploring some myofascial yoga with me. The place of divine light and truth in me, honors the place of divine light and truth in you, where we are all one. Namaste.